And good evening, field hockey fans. This is JumboCast coming to you live from Daniel Ungen Field. I am your play-by-play host for the evening, Andrew McMillan, joined by Francis Simmons. So welcome for another bit of full-tilt NESCAC field hockey. We are just about ready to get underway under the lights. And, yeah, Francis, what do you got about this matchup here between the Tufts Jumbos and the Bowdoin Polar Bears?
Tufts coming off 2 great wins, shutouts, in fact. So they'll keep the defense rolling here, or at least hope so. And for Bowdoin, they're just coming off of an overtime victory against Cotton College. So they'll look for some momentum in the start of this game.
Absolutely. 2 well-ranked teams in field hockey going to be playing in the NESCAC tournament. Both will be playing in the NESCAC tournament coming up this weekend. Tufts will presumably be starting up against Bates. Bowdoin, meanwhile, will be starting up against the top-ranked Middlebury team. So with that, we are back to some field hockey. And that was Gigi Tutoni getting a little bit tangled up, but she takes a penalty, gets that deep into Polar Bear territory. And that's number 15, Marguerite Salamone, taking things into deep into Polar Bear territory further. That'll be a penalty corner for the Jumbos, their first of the game. Just exactly what we talked about last game 2 weeks ago here. Starting to set the tone early, get that penalty corner, and see if they can convert.
Yep, so. And that's already the second foot on the first possession. There was one called earlier, and these will be crucial as they go into the NESCAC. This will be a focus for them as these penalty corners.
Polar Bears join keeper Eva Verzon, Maddie Ferrucci in goal. Jumbos fan out around the oval. That's Salamone taking the corner. Sweep to 14. Slap shots hit away by Ferrucci, and that's going to be cleared out back to the quarter field line. Tufts ball. And a quick word from our from in the booth. Apologies in advance for anything for a slightly worse quality picture. It's been raining torrentially on and off today. And just to be absolutely 100% safe, we are broadcasting from within the press box. Field hockey has easily some of the nicest facilities on here, including a state-of-the-art press box where we usually broadcast from the top of. But for now, we're behind a screen, safe from any inclement weather that could be coming our way.
And two, it's important to note that it's a turf field.
Absolutely.
So that rain will not really affect the speed of the ball any.
Might see some little jets of water come up as the sticks hit the field and people run quickly. But nothing else should be affected too badly as Polar Bears retake possession deep in their own territory. Worst field of view for us broadcasters, so if we're a little slow on the names, apologies again. So that's Mary-Kate Patton sending out to the center. Celia Lewis loses control a little bit, but she and Alexa Thomas wrangle the ball quickly.
And Tufts really keeping control here on the offensive end.
Fallon Shaughnessy on the near wing. That's back to Tutoni, who sends it back this time to Izzy Del Prior, who had a great defensive save in the shutout against Williams. Thomas out to the far wing. That's Travers, Mary Travers, working around the Polar Bears defenders. I believe that's numbers 9 and 10 for the Polar Bears, Catherine French and Tala Glass. Another Tufts ball, this time just regular inbounds. Looks like Shaughnessy will be taking it. Shaughnessy's on the near end. Salamone, number 15. Lewis to support. Too many Polar Bears right now. More fighting in the oval. That was Hannah Malik. And a great goal this time from, gosh, can't even see anything. These screens are something else. But that's a Tufts goal to start off the game. I want to say Gigi Tutoni on
that was
the
just
goal there.
A beautiful play, and they'll be looking for more of that as they head into the tournament. But the pass just set her up beautifully there. Just what a wonderful play.
Great way to start the game off for these Jumbos here against a conference rival. In order to keep pace with the Middlebury at the top of the NESCAC rankings, they do need a win here tonight. So Polar Bears retake possession. Pass back to number 19, Benowitz. Bears keep knocking it around in the backfield. That's Baumgartner out to the far wing. Can't quite see the number from here right now. Polar Bears working. Travers and Malik working to screw things up. And Gigi Tutoni, it's more of the same from her. Freshman phenom from junior. That's not one of the freshman phenoms, but easily one of the most talented field hockey players. Consensus pick for one of the top attackers on this Jumbo's offense.
She's been playing some great field hockey as of late.
Jumbo's pass to Celia Lewis. Lewis back to Del Prior. Defense controls it. It's a flubbed pass, but number 2, Elizabeth Growney is there to break things up. Del Prior still there, still controlling. That's out to Thomas on the far side. Thomas's pass this time to Salamone. Salamone sends it up. And that's Malik standing up. Bowdoin retakes control.
And with 5 minutes gone in this first half here, Tufts has a 1-0 lead as the Bears take it up the field.
Still lots of field hockey left to play. That's number 19, Benowitz, charging up the side, while number 6, Juliana Fiore, loses control of that. And Fiore, hero of the last game against Conn College for these Bowdoin Polar Bears. Overtime goals gave them the victory and keep them in contention for the NESCAC tournament. Del Prior, once again, back to Thomas on the far side. Thomas past Salamone. That's Travers now on the wing, fighting, making it past. That's, I believe, Glass on the far side. Travers back to the center. More stick work from Travers. That's to Lewis. Lewis passed right into Fiore's stick. This time saved by Del Prior, but a little violent stick maneuver gives the ball back to the Bowdoin Polar Bears and sets them up for their next attack into Jumbo territory.
Yeah, it's uncharacteristic really to see a sticking penalty from Tufts.
19 Benowitz, this time to Growney. Elizabeth Growney working against, that's Patton and Shaughnessy. Lewis and Salamone fighting for it. Lewis takes control. Gives that to Del Prior for the inbound. Del Prior out to the far wing. Thomas to Sanders. Sanders this time to Salamone. Salamone running with it. That'll be a Polar Bear foot.
It's the third one of the game already.
Elevated pass to Lewis. Lewis in the center. That was number 13, Kara Finnerty, excuse me. Jumbo send that one out and give it back to the Polar Bears. Hard enough to see these numbers even without the screen in front. Polar Bears send it back to the center. Out to Benowitz. Benowitz up to Growney. Growney bring it back to Benowitz. Still on the wing. Benowitz, no options. Back to the center. Malik pressing. That's going to be to Tony on the pressure again. Fiore working around Patton this time. Shaughnessy's there to take it away and back to the Jumbo possession.
And that pressure was just way too much for them. That intensity that they brought on that play was
Salamone, center. That's Malik. Malik can't quite control it at the top of the oval, and that's back to Travers. Travers dribbles, moves through, almost through to Polar Bear defenders. Can't quite break the oval defense there. Polar Bears retake control, moving it up the field. That's to the center for number 14, Baumgartner. Gartner's pass up to Del Prior. Del Prior back to pass for Salamone. Sticks clacking around. Polar Bears retake control. And that's number 7, Emma Stevens moving up the wing. Pressure on Sanders. Hannah Malik checking out for number 12. That's Rachel Hamilton in for her first action of the game. Cassidy Rogers-Helian on the sideline getting ready for her first move in. Polinsky kicks that away.
And while we have a moment, Rachel Hamilton's been playing some great field hockey off of the bench. She has been there for Tufts, and she'll look for that this game as well, and as we go into the next CAC tournament.
That's L. Brine sending it out for the Polar Bears. Jumbo's retake possession. Sanders for the inbound. Elevated. Right to Hamilton. Tufts foot there. Back to the Polar Bears. That's Rachel Mann on the defense, setting it up. Polar Bears possession for another inbound. L. Brine once again on the inbound. Slick pass broken up by the Tufts defense. That looks like Salamone and Travers breaking the play up. Sanders on the inbound. Centers to Lewis, who pump fakes, but that's broken up by Juliana Fior for the Polar Bears. Tufts foot. Fior wasting no time. Pass to, that's number 13, Cara Finnerty. Back to the Polar Bears again on the foot. Fior dribbling in the center. Defense has consolidated. Slap shot from Benowitz. Knocked away by Patton. Fior back on the ball. Working against a 2v1 advantage right now. Benowitz back to Fior. Fior still working on, this time on the near wing. That'll be a Tufts ball as the Polar Bears send it out. Mary Travers checking out for Cassidy Rogers-Helian. Jumbo's making their signature style of quickly substituting in and out for shorter, harder workloads. We're still just about 10 minutes into the game now. About the longest shift you're ever going to see for the work-intensive positions, such as the midfielder and attacking positions for the Jumbos.
And I think that has a lot to do with the Jumbo's success is the intensity they're able to bring on every play, every possession. And, that really has led them to be 10-4 this season and second in the next CAC.
Claire Trilling will check into the game for number 8, Mary-Kate Patton. On the midfield, you see those attacking and midfielding positions quickly substituted out. That's Tutoni. Tutoni up to Trilling. That's going to be broken up by Benowitz. Benowitz up the near wing. Boxing out. That'll be picked up by Growney. Growney's slap shot flies not where she wants it to. And that'll be Del Prior on the inbound for the Jumbos. Del Prior tries to elevate. Can't quite get there. Growney is there, though. Shaughnessy takes it right back. And that's Tutoni sending up to the wing, right into Benowitz. Keeps it in Jumbo territory. Pass caught, this time by number 14, Cara Finnerty. Finnerty's pass to Growney is too far, though, and that will be out for the Jumbos, deep in their corner. Hana Malik checks right back in for Tutoni. Just quick water break for Malik there. Pass up the wing is blocked, this time by Fior. Fior, great shot, is going to be stopped by Lewis in the center. Back to the Polar Bears. I believe that was a foot closer into, beyond the quarter field mark. Right for number 11, Rachel Mann to inbound. Pass to, it's broken up. That was to Growney. Benowitz takes it back. Swing shot. Blocked by Lewis. That's going to be taken by number 13, Cara Finnerty again. Polar Bear ball once again. To the top of the dotted oval this time.
And possession's starting to even out here. Tufts really controlled it in the first half of the portion of the game, but now Bowdoin's really to have it in their front half. So
Polar Bears really understand that to hang with Tufts, you have to keep the pressure on, keep the defense working.
So no shots on goal.
No shots on goal just yet, but only a matter of time if they can keep the pressure up and keep the defense and the midfield back on their back heels. That's going to be Sanders sending it up right into. Looks as though that was Elizabeth Growney there. Or excuse me, no, Growney's in the center. Sanders again, tries to elevate. This time it's knocked away by Tala Glass. Polar Bears keep it in. And that's Emma Stevens moving up into the penalty oval. Be back to a Tufts ball, though.
There have been a lot of change of possessions as of late. Tufts and Bowdoin both will look to clean up their play as the game moves forward.
Absolutely a high-energy game right now. That's going to come out to Shaughnessy. Shaughnessy recenters back to Del Prior. Del Prior pump fakes to the far side, but starts moving up herself. That's to Shaughnessy on the near wing. Shaughnessy brings it up to Hamilton. Hamilton draws the foul. Shaughnessy retakes possession, sends that back to Del Prior. Del Prior centers up to Lewis. Lewis considers her options, dribbles, brings it back for, it was intended for Del Prior, but sails wide and easy possession for the Polar Bears. And the Jumbos really want to avoid setting.
And that's a costly turnover as it puts the ball back into the Bowdoin fourth.
Jumbos really want to avoid those kinds of unforced errors. That's Benowitz working against a 3v1 disadvantage. Benowitz takes the inbound again, dribbling, working around Malik. Pass to the center is broken up this time. I believe that was Del Prior. Could have been Lewis, though, for the indirect defensive save there.
And again, credit the defense though. I mean, when Bowdoin's attacking, there's a sea of blue, and it's really making the job a lot easier for Tedesco here.
Tutoni checks back in for Hamilton. Ball comes up to the near side. Benowitz is there again. Fior loses control of the ball, but Benowitz is there to take it back. Centers out to Glass. Excuse me, that's Rachel Mann. Mann pass into the center, finds a polar bear, and that's going to be number 13, Finnerty, challenging Del Prior, who finds herself on the far wing. Del Prior's pass up to Travers, who's found herself back in the game, is going to make it easy for Travers as she keeps running. Almost has the makings of a perfect breakaway there, but that'll be number 12, Maggie Ford, who breaks things up for Travers. Sanders back to Thomas. Thomas centers to Lewis. That overshoots, but Gigi Tutoni's there to pick it up. Tutoni on the near wing. Pass to Trilling, finds it, the man. That's going to be broken up this time by not Finnerty. That's Baumgartner, who's found some really nice action on the defensive side of things. And a good way to break up this Jumbo's attack. Baumgartner will take the inbound for the Polar Bears.
And both teams would like to get more shots on goal. Tufts especially is a very defensive team, as I mentioned at the beginning of the broadcast, two shutouts in a row. So Bowdoin's really going to have to try to get some shots on Polinsky here to maybe open things up. And
big ups to Emily Polinsky, who last game had 7 saves to the Williams keepers 2, keeping things really in check on that Williams offense. They had the advantage in shots 8-7 during that game, but nothing doing. Big old goose egg for Williams as the Jumbos take the win. Mary Kate Patton checks back into the game. Tutoni is up with Fior, putting the pressure on. Fior's pass this time to Growney. No good. Broken up by Hamilton. Or excuse me, that's Del Prior. Del Prior, really nice defensive work so far this game. Just inserting herself into every situation. Del Prior centers out to Thomas. Thomas switches the field, goes out to the far wing. That'll be Sanders running up against number 7, Emma Stevens. Sanders still with it, but that coughs it up to the Polar Bear offense. Right back to the Jumbos, though. Sanders staying with it. Travers' pass is going to hit the legs of the Polar Bear attacker there. Can't quite see the number.
And as that goes out of bounds, we're about halfway through this first half, and Jumbo still have the 1-0 advantage over Bowdoin.
Quick action with 18 minutes left. Lots of energy going into all this right now. A little spray of water comes up on that pass there. Baumgartner. Pass to the center. That's number 9, Catherine French.
And I think a lot of that energy that you mentioned, too, has to do with just the fact that NESCACs are looming.
Polar Bears take it back right into Jumbo territory. That's number 13, Finnerty, moving up to Growney. Growney, pressure on Del Prior. Centering pass. Polinsky's there to kick it away. That's Shaughnessy. Fallon Shaughnessy trying to work around Growney. Back to the Jumbos. Polar Bear foot is for Shaughnessy to inbound. Shaughnessy keeps moving it up until the ref is satisfied. Or no, that's Del Prior again, excuse me. That's Tutoni, though. Tutoni working around a 2v1 disadvantage. Trilling is there in the center to take it. Trilling switches the field. That one was for Travers. Travers controls it. Running with it up the far side again. Travers hitting a bit of a wall there. That's going to be Emma Stevens again. Stevens, this time to Finnerty. Finnerty moving up the field. Tackling the 2v1 disadvantage. That's a Tufts foot. Back to the Polar Bears. Polar Bears keeping up some really nice pressure on this Tufts defense. But as we've said earlier, and we'll say it again, Tufts defense has just been dominant.
And credit Polinsky, but also credit the defense as a whole. They've been very intense and they make plays, and
absolutely.
That's the big thing.
Celia Lewis with another defensive save in that last game against Williams. Slap shot from her is going to find its way to Trilling. Trilling to Tony, or excuse me, Patton. Patton can't quite handle it. She'll get hustled back to the defensive side of the ball. Lewis, nice effort there, but that's going to be a little bit too much for Finnerty. Finnerty working her way around Jumbo defenders. Still there, but that's going to be broken up by Del Prior. Another nice defensive play.
She really just had nowhere to go with that ball, and she had no choice but to try to beat it past the defender.
Boxed out. That's going to be taken by Juliana Benowitz. Elizabeth Benowitz on the inbound. Pressured by Hamilton. That's going to be broken up by Tutoni. Quick pass from Tutoni up to Hamilton. It's going to be challenged by Baumgartner. Back to the center. It's a 3v1 disadvantage, but Travers is there to set things up for Hamilton. Hamilton can't quite control it. That'll be taken back by the Polar Bear defenders. And a quick Tufts foot gives the ball back to the Polar Bears. Baumgartner on the inbound here. Baumgartner's pass is going to sail right by Growney. Become a Tufts ball once again.
And we've seen a few unforced errors here early going of this game. It seems pretty uncharacteristic of both Tufts and Bowdoin. They'll look to clean it up heading into the tournament this weekend for sure.
Fairly tight play, though, so far. 1-0 game does not make for a lot of mistakes for either team there. As the clock winds just down past 15 minutes. We are 20 minutes into this first half. Really some great play from both teams here. Defenses have been holding mostly steady, and the Polar Bears have done a great job of keeping the ball on the Tufts half of the field. Diving effort from Patton isn't quite good enough. She breaks up the next one, though. That's going to be an unsafe hit call on Patton. A little bit close to the goal here. Calling for a ball. That's the Tufts women's lacrosse team on the ball duty for field hockey tonight. Lots of good relationships between the field hockey and lacrosse teams here.
Bowdoin must capitalize here.
Benowitz to Fior. That's broken up by Salamone. All the way back to Polar Bear territory with L. Bryan and Baumgartner in pursuit. Travers pressures. That's back to Bryan. Bryan to Baumgartner. Baumgartner attempted pass up the wing. That's going to be stopped by Sanders. Sanders to Salamone. Salamone right up there for, that's number 21, Alexis Chavette, who's checked into the game. Chavette on the attack. Chavette had a really nice game a couple of weeks ago when we were last at Ungen Field. She'll look to repeat performance here a little bit against the more powerful NESCAC rivals. Lewis, once again on the inbound. Dribbles. That one was to Salamone. Salamone attempts to circle around the defender, pass into the center. Be found by Travers, but you might be able to hear the corner calls from the Tufts sideline. They're looking for foot from the Polar Bears in the penalty oval.
Absolutely. They've only actually had one this game, which is slightly a little behind their average. They'll look to get it some few here in the last 15 minutes of this half. 13.
Lewis on the pressure again. That's not Lewis. That was Sanders, and Travers attempted to control that, couldn't quite handle it. Will sail out of bounds, become another Polar Bear ball. Pressure still on. That's Chavette, Patton, Hamilton, and Travers staying up. Switching the field to the near wing. That's Fior, who stayed back, but dribbling up around Chavette. Pass up to the far side of the jumbo territory. Meant for Finnerty, but she's not quite far enough up to capitalize. Thomas will find that and attempt to break this up. Which she does. That'll be a Polar Bear foot and a jumbo ball once again.
And while we have a minute here, we'd like to tell you about a special treat we have. So joining us in the second half, we actually have someone who's training on color. So you'll look forward to that at the beginning of the second half.
Love it. Love it when we got new JumboCast members. Means we can keep bringing you more Tufts athletics action all throughout the year. Back to field hockey, though. Polar Bears inbound on the far wing. It's a little unsafe stick action from Marguerite Salamone. Slap shot, doesn't go anywhere. Another slap shot, knocked down this time by Del Prior. Great defensive effort there. Travers up the far wing. Her pass is going to sail wide and go out of bounds into Polar Bear territory.
And those deflections of what has made Tufts so successful this season. You know, they're making the job for Polinsky very easy by getting those deflections on those slap shots. And they'll look to continue to do that throughout the game.
Polar Bears inbound, but that's broken up by Hamilton. Hamilton to Chavette. Rachel Hamilton's still there, but that's going to be controlled by the Polar Bears in the oval. Will be out on the Jumbos. Polar Bears retake control inside the dotted oval. That's Baumgartner on the inbound. Pass is broken up by Patton. Pass back to Patton. Tufts foot. Believe that was on Hamilton. We'll give the ball back to the Polar Bears. Kelsey Baumgartner once again on the inbound. Pass to Finnerty, who locks up with Lewis. Lewis breaks it up and gives it back to Shaughnessy. Shaughnessy to Hamilton. Hamilton right back to Travers. Travers charging up the field. That'll be saved. Right back to, looks like, Salamone. Salamone loses it, but Travers is there to pick her up. Travers loses it there. Polar Bears retake control, but lose it themselves deep in Tufts, or shallow in Tufts territory. Del Prior to Shaughnessy. Shaughnessy up the near wing to Patton. Patton against Fior one-on-one. Growney comes into support, and Patton dumps it back to the Tufts defense. Claire Trilling, Hannah Malik, and Gigi Tutoni check in for Chavette, Patton, and Hamilton. 9:41 left to play. We are under 10 minutes left in the second half, or in the first half, excuse me. Malik locking up with Baumgartner this time. Fresh set of legs on the attack could be just what the doctor ordered for this Jumbo's offense late in the first half.
Exactly.
Out to Benowitz on the near wing. Benowitz back to Baumgartner. Burning time for now. It's still very close. 1-0 is peanuts in a field hockey game, as it is in most sports. Fior dribbling around, locks up with Lewis.
Pace is starting to pick up a little bit here. Maybe it is those fresh legs.
Lewis and Shaughnessy going for it, but that's going to be back to Fior. And a Tufts foot. Fior wasting no time. Sets herself up for a center, and another foot, this time on Lewis. Lewis really not happy with herself there. Unfortunate mistake there, but allows the Polar Bears to set up for another attack. Benowitz trying to take it quickly, but ref is having none of that. And that'll be Fior, Juliana Fior, centering, but broken up by Trilling. Trilling, taken back, this time by Baumgartner, excuse me, that's not Baumgartner, that is number 24, Abby Bashaw, breaking things up. Still in the Tufts oval, great effort from Polinsky. Ball's loose, and Fior just not quite in the right position there. Polinsky was out of goal, and could have been a great opportunity for the Polar Bears to equalize, but Tufts defense holds strong. Benowitz, pass, broken up by Trilling. Baumgartner's there to catch the loose ball in Polar Bear territory. Looks for Benowitz, nothing good there. Pass out to L. Bryan on the far side. Bryan up this time to Stevens. Pass again, this time back to Baumgartner. Baumgartner and Benowitz been the rocks of the two pillars of this Polar Bear defense. That only faltered once early. Been very equal field hockey here, as much more time has been spent engaging the Tufts defense in Tufts territory.
And Bowdoin has done a great job of keeping it in their half of the field, but they just have struggled getting it into the penalty oval. We'll see if they can change that here as the ball sails out of bounds, though.
If you're a little too energetic for anything effective there, as Del Prior slaps that to the far side. That'll be Sanders moving up the wing. Sanders dribbling, engaging with Bryan. Bryan breaks it, or excuse me, that's not Bryan, that's Glass. Glass breaking it up. Back to Sanders. Sanders and Salamone. This time to Rogers Helian. Rogers Helian in the far corner. A little bit of finagling. Polar Bears managed to hang on to it and keep it for themselves to inbound. Great defensive play from Glass, and looks like Fior still has made her way out to the far side. Or excuse me, nope, Fior's on the near side. That must be L. Bryan once again. Fior, though, on the near wing. Dribbling up, broken up by Shaughnessy. Shaughnessy to Lewis. Lewis up to Trilling, misses, but found by Malik. Can't quite keep it away from Mann. Good defensive play from Rachel Mann. Fior, back to Growney. Growney through the legs of Del Prior, but Shaughnessy's there to pick her up and break up the run. Shaughnessy back up the near wing. Pass to Tony. To Tony, dribbles, finds Trilling in the center. Trilling moving up the wing, and that's Hana Malik on the near wing once again. Back into Polar Bear territory. Looking for a penalty foot here.
Did they get one? They got one.
And that'll be it.
And you can hear the excitement coming from the Tufts bench. They know what these penalty corners mean to them and mean to their game. So we'll see if they can capitalize here.
Really great strategic play from Hana Malik, which it's tough to do to sort of keep your wits about you for when you're running full tilt, and hard enough to keep your balance, really, but you've got to keep the ball in mind, got to keep your stick in mind, know what you want to do. So a very singular goal you have to practice over and over and over again to be effective at bringing it about. So really well done from Hana Malik as the Jumbos have their next best scoring opportunity in the half. Really only their second of the half with just about 5 minutes left to play.
And they average over 9 penalty corners per game, and this is only the second of the half. So, they'll look to see if they can get a few more as we conclude here.
So this will be Salamone on the inbound. This time that was to Rogers Helion. Centered, pass, slapped away by Polar Bear keeper, Maddie Ferrucci. Inbound back to the Polar Bears. This will be Baumgartner to the near wing. Benowitz tries to slap it down, but Teutoни's there to pressure. Pass up is broken up by Shaughnessy. That'll be a Tufts ball once again. Shaughnessy to the center. That's Trilling. Trilling and Fior. Salomon's there on the far wing. Back to Sanders. Lewis. Shot on goal is a really nice effort from Malik to get something in there, but a little too dramatic, a little too flailing to get a proper shot off.
You can hear the Tufts bench yelling to try to get another corner, and they did just that. This will be the third one of their game. Now they just have to capitalize. Something that they've slightly struggled with this season, and hopefully they can get some momentum going and convert on some of these.
Much different game from the last from when we last spent some time together. I believe it was the Scott, or it was the Scott. We're calling them the Scots. What team was that?
Gordon.
Gordon Scots, but I believe they're actually the Lions. I was reading the recap. It's actually the Gordon Lions. So bit of a romp for the Jumbos there, but nothing like that for the Bowdoin Polar Bears, who managed to beat Bates, one of Tufts' only 4 losses this year. And a great shot from Claire Trilling is going to bounce over the diving efforts from Ferrucci and be Tufts' second goal of the game, right with just about 3 minutes and 10 seconds left to play in the half.
And that's why you hear the Tufts bench yelling to get those corners, is they're high percentage shots and they lead to goals. And that's why Tufts has really made it a focus this year to get in the corner, and now has made it a focus to try to finish.
Much more so than soccer, I'd hazard to say. It's just that soccer corner kicks just don't happen nearly, or don't nearly convert as many goals as field hockey corners do. So Teutoни on the pressure there, up against Benowitz and Fior, but she can't quite convert that to her own possession.
They like this near side of the field. I think they like their chances with the ground. She was a standout at Deerfield Academy in high school. She's a hustler, and she's been involved in most of the plays on offense so far this game.
I think also the Polar Bears are fully aware of Travers's presence on the far wing of things right now. She currently leads the Jumbos in points and goals for that matter. So keeping the bulk of their defensive resources on the far wing keeps Travers mostly contained, but really opens up opportunities for players like Alexis Chavette, Claire Trilling, Hana Malik, and the other extraordinarily talented players on the field hockey team. So capitalized just enough for the Jumbos as they double their lead late in the first half. 2 minutes left to play as the seconds wane down for the Polar Bears.
And we'll see here if the Polar Bears can do anything to try to at least get a good shot on goal so they can have some momentum going into halftime, see if they can get somewhere at the beginning of the second half.
Growney dribbling through Jumbo defenders, passes back to Benowitz to reset. with a minute 35 left to play. Sweep shot out to the center will allow Baumgartner to switch the wing. Baumgartner this time out to Glass. Glass up to Bashaw. And that's Salamone and Sanders working for the Jumbos out there. Finnerty back in the center, but that's to Tony and Hamilton. Hamilton on the breakaway. Around the defenders. A little bit too much there for the Polar Bears. And they'll break that up. Baumgartner clears it easily to keep the seconds ticking down with only 55 left to play in the half. Jumbos have just about enough time for one last serious attempt on the goal. That's Thomas. Bounces off of Finnerty. Thomas charges. Can hear some calls for penalties. That'll be a Tufts foot and a Bowdoin ball. Or excuse me, a Tufts ball deep in Bowdoin territory. Lewis on the attack. Another inbound. 24 seconds left to play.
And you can hear again Tufts bench yelling to try to get a corner in this last 15 seconds here. Let's see if they try one more play before the half ends.
Referee calling a lot of penalties right now in the last 30 seconds. 8 seconds left to play, and that'll just be about it. Nothing close enough effective to happen here in the first half. And the ball trickling out is just how this half is going to end. So 2-0 Tufts in the first half. So we're going to take a quick break. We'll be back a little bit before the second half starts up for some first half analysis and introductions on the training side of things. But don't go anywhere. More field hockey coming your way in a few. second half action from volleyball. I am Andrew McMillan, joined by our newest trainee.
Lucas Pyle. Glad to be here. And looking forward to the second half.
What can you tell us a little about yourself, Lucas? We got about a minute and a half before the half starts up.
Well, I'm a first year here at Tufts. Not really sure what I'm gonna study or what I'm gonna major in, but just enjoying life so far here at the campus, and I'm looking forward to doing this first broadcast here for this field hockey game.
Great answers all around. So we'll just. Anything you notice about the first half? Like I think this is your first ever field hockey game that you're watching, but like it's there's a lot of similarities you can sort of draw upon between the sports. What have you noticed?
Well, I think Tufts will be very happy with how they played in that first half. I think they started really well, high intensity, pressing up the field. They kept the ball really well, good possession, got that early goal. It was a great goal, and then Bowdoin sort of got back into the game a bit. But I think that as it went on, Tufts, regained their form and got a second goal late on, and they'll definitely be happy with how they played.
Absolutely. Well, can only hope that the Bowdoin Polar Bears have another gear to shift into, because once again, for I guess you could say the 11th time this season, this Jumbo's defense is proving equal to the task of moving this team forward through the NESCAC and on to the NCAA tournament once again. Jumbos were the runners-up, as I'm sure all of our viewers here are well aware of. So they'll be looking to equal or better, preferably better, that performance definitely in the 2017 season. But for now, as the Jumbos say before each game, the time is now. They are here, and they are tough. So Polar Bears are first. Quarterfinal action will be coming will be coming your way, not through JumboCast this weekend. We do not have the rights to that game, but will be broadcast, I believe, through PAC, the other alternate provider of everything Tufts athletics. But for now, Jumbos and Polar Bears retake the field for the second half of this field hockey game. Jumbo's leading 2-0. Polinsky retaking her position in the goal. Maddie Ferrucci retaking her position opposite in the Polar Bear net. 35 minutes on the clock. Jumbos control the ball for this half here. And that'll be to Tony, I believe. Excuse me, no, Hannah Malik on the inbound. Back to Shaughnessy. Shaughnessy's passed to the near wing now. Travers is there. A little bit of a switch up now that the orientations have rotated 180 degrees. We're going to see a lot more of Travers up in your near screen vision, with Tutoni, Chevette, and Salamone doing a lot of work on the far side. Apologies for also not quite being able to get all the action on the near side, especially in Polar Bear territory now. What was Jumbo territory and is now Polar Bear territory. Camera can't quite reach there, and you might be able to see it on your screens back home, but there is a lovely, gentle rain. I'm not going to call it a drizzle because it's a bit more moderate than that. You can see some umbrella, mostly a sea of umbrellas out in the stands there, and a couple of coaches' umbrellas as well. But it's going to be a wet environment for anyone out there. Malik's charge is not quite good enough for the Polar Bear defense. That'll be a Polar Bear ball. Probably a little bit too violent with the charge there.
I think the Polar Bears have got to start getting a bit more possession. They're 2 goals behind. They've got to start keeping the ball and creating more chances than they did in that first half. They really didn't put a lot of pressure on the Tufts goal in that first half. That's definitely something that has to change for them.
Polar Bears did a great job with keeping possession of the ball, but did absolutely nothing with it. Don't want to discredit their control of the ball, but Tufts was much more efficient with their time and possession of the ball.
Sure.
So Tufts still take control. This is Aaron Sanders, who we'll see a lot more of on the near side. Thomas, back to Sanders. Sanders force to be reckoned with on the wing. As a mostly defensive midfielder, Travers is usually pretty good for the attacking responsibilities as she dribbles up. Nice move around L. Bryan. And that's Tala Glass in pursuit. moderate rain now. It's thickening up just a little bit, but this is exactly why we moved inside, so thankfully we'll keep our equipment dry and safe. Bit of an unsafe sticking maneuver there from Tufts. I'm going to probably give that to Mary Kate Patton.
It's good skill there by November 13. Celia Lewis did a good turn. Nice shot, but just didn't come off her.
Baumgartner switches the field. That's out to number 19, Benowitz. Baumgartner, Benowitz. Benowitz was on the near side for most of the first half. She'll be way away from us. That's Elle Brine switching her half. Salamone challenges, but
Tufts, you can see Tufts continuously pressing high up the field. And really high work rates here.
Baumgartner's slap shot's going to find its way into jumbo territory. That'll be the three attackers putting the pressure on Celia Lewis and Izzy Del Prior. Pass out to the wing. That's to Patton. Patton to Lewis. Lewis loses control, and that's going to be number 7, Emma Stevens, who takes control. Sends it out for Tala Glass. Alexa Thomas takes it back, dribbling through the Polar Bear attackers. Easy pass is going to be picked up by number 5, Elle Brine. Brine back to Fior. Fior to Benowitz. Benowitz on the far wing. Dribbling. Pass up is going to be intercepted by, looks like, Shaughnessy. Shaughnessy. Pass back. That's Del Prior. Back to Shaughnessy. Shaughnessy up to Sanders, it looks like. Excuse me, that's to Tony. To Tony, challenging. Polar Bears doing a nice job of responding to the pressure that the Tufts put up. More possession does lead to more goals, but Polar Bears do have to execute, find the penalty corners, and force the defense into making errors. Jumbos send it back, this time to Thomas. Thomas to Sanders up the near wing. Sanders' pass to Travers is good. Travers dribbling. That's Elle Brine sending it out. Sanders elevates. That'll be over Brine, right to Malik. Malik on a 2-1 disadvantage right now, but beats the defenders into the oval. Pass to Patton. Good backhand attempt is blocked away by Fiducci and then kicked away by, I believe that was Fior. Could have been number... That was, we're getting word that was number 8, Jonah Cook.
It's really good skill by Hannah Malik on the sideline. She got away from 2 defenders. Fantastic play. And then nearly got a goal from that Tufts. And they've started the second half better than Bowdoin. They've started the second half like they did the first half. On top, a lot of pressure.
Jumbo's back in it on possession. Really nice play from number 11 there on the Polar Bear side. Rachel Mann. Mann, bit of an unsung hero this game. We'll try to attribute a little bit more of the Polar Bear defense to her. Benowitz and Baumgartner have just taken a lot of the spotlight. Hamilton sheds her parka, brings in Malik, whose leg has been wrapped since the beginning of the game, battling through an injury. But with her team up by 2, 29-12 left in the second half, she can be afforded some more rest on the sideline.
I think Bowdoin have got to change something. If they don't change something in their game plan right now, they're going to come away with a loss.
Thomas's pass is going to be intercepted by Baumgartner, and Hamilton upset with the call, but that's going to be a tough. That's going to be her foot hitting the ball there, and hand the ball back over to the Polar Bear defense. Brine back to Baumgartner. Pressure to Tony. Travers pressures Brine, takes the ball back, dribbles around, moves for the goal, centering pass. Knocked away by number 11, Rachel Mann. Breaks up that nice setup from Travers, who had a few opportunities in goal, but it sets up the 3rd Tufts penalty corner of the game.
And it's another big chance here for Tufts. It was great skill on the sideline there by Travers. Got away from the defender, the good juke inside.
Indeed,
another opportunity here for Tufts.
Stick handling skills second to none for Travers, who leads the team in goals for a reason. So often Travers takes these penalty corners earlier in the season, but it's Salamone once again who will inbound. 4 Polar Bear defenders joining for Ferrucci in goal. The rest of the Polar Bears charge in. Set up from Shaughnessy. Triple fake. That's going to be Patton. Whiffs. Back to Lewis, who elevates, and that's going to find its way into the goal. And Jumbos take a 3-0 lead on the beautiful goal from Celia Lewis. I'm going to go out on a limb and say number 5, Fallon Shaughnessy on the assist there.
It was sort of fortunate how the ball ended up there to Lewis, but a good shot, and Tufts get the 3rd goal, and you have to feel that could be the goal that gets them the win.
Straw that broke the Polar Bears' back, so to speak. 3-0 is definitely worlds away from 2-0 as the minutes tick down past 28 minutes. We're getting official word now that was Celia Lewis unassisted, so all by herself making that happen for the Tufts Jumbos. Rachel Mann switches the field. That'll be back out to Benowitz. Mary Kate Patton regains control, moving back into Polar Bear territory. Salamone dribbling. Challenged by Glass this time. Salamone still on it. Sanders takes charge. And that was, thought that was Baumgartner who lost her stick, but that was actually Salamone dropping her stick in the confusion. That's Mann. Out to Benowitz. Benowitz's pass to Fior is going to be found. This time passed up to number 13, Finnerty. Polar Bear attacking core, as we have said. Don't even know if they need to change anything up, but the pressure needs the pressure that was present for the majority of the first half definitely needs to come back. Leaving the more efficient Tufts offense with opportunities like that is just going to get the game more and more out of reach. Opportunities like this are something that the Polar Bears need to limit, which they do in this moment. That's Glass now on the near wing. Glass around Sanders to Stevens. Stevens and Glass get the ball back for the Polar Bears, excuse me. L. Bryan beats Travers, moves up the wing. That's Sanders breaking up the play there. Bryan still with the ball, pass to Stevens. Stevens working on a 2-1 disadvantage right now. And something important to notice that I don't think we've picked up on just yet is how well the Jumbos have been shutting down the playmakers on the Polar Bear offense. It's not quite as much of a unified front as we've seen the Jumbos present against this Polar Bear defense. And since the isolated strands of the Polar Bear offense can't quite get anything going, they're just they've been rather quiet. So hopefully see some more synergy moving into the past the 10-minute mark of this second half. 25 minutes left to play. 3-0 Tufts. Yeah. That's to Tony checking in for Mary Travers, who's been putting in a really nice effort so far this game.
Yeah, the Polar Bears are slowly moving further and further down the field, but they're just finding it tough to find a killer pass or to break through the Jumbo's defense, who's shut down almost everything.
Lewis, nice effort. That's going to be broken up by number 20, Izzy Del Prior. And for the first time this game, Jumbos will have to defend against a penalty corner. Bowdoin's best chance thus far looks like Lewis, Del Prior, Thomas, Sanders, and I believe Trilling joining Emily Polinsky in goal.
Well, Bowdoin have to take this chance with less than 24 minutes to play, down by 3 goals. They got to start the comeback right now, and this is a great opportunity to do so.
I believe that's Finnerty on the inbound. Nope, Finnerty is in the center. Polar Bears send it to Benowitz. Benowitz's slap shot is going to be kicked away by Polinsky and further deflected by number, I can't quite see, but I believe that was Trilling on the defense. A really great defensive play there for the Jumbos.
Great goal line defending. I think if she doesn't shot that goes in, and that's big for Tufts. It's the best chance that the Polar Bears have had thus far. But Tufts once
Bryan
again.
on the possession. Polar Bears looking for another good attack here. That's Emma Stevens on the effort. Bouncing around the Tufts defense right now. That'll be sent out of bounds by the Polar Bears, and Sanders will take charge. Sanders, slap shot, intercepted by Glass. Tala Glass, pass to Finnerty. Finnerty finds Lewis's foot. Shot of desperation there from Finnerty. Really actually well placed, but good defensive stop from Del Prior. Rogers Helian up the wing. That'll be taken around by Baumgartner, who works against Alexa Chavette to keep the possession. Baumgartner to Glass. Beats Salamone. Finnerty now working against Lewis once again. Dribbling, driving. Still Finnerty. Finnerty showing some really nice stick work right now, but this is exactly what we were talking about. Overwhelming defensive numbers keeps the Polar Bears ineffective. No one to support Finnerty as she tries again. Slap shot into the center is going to be broken up by the greater Tufts presence, but that will find, I believe that was Shaughnessy's foot, and give the Polar Bears their second great opportunity of the game.
Well, they nearly scored from their first corner, and now another chance, to find a goal here. And the Polar Bears, after not starting too well this half, they've started to improve their play and looking a bit more dangerous.
Polar Bears got to be a little bit quicker this time, allowing the bulk of the Tufts defense to get back into the oval was, I believe, their mistake this first time around. So they'll try from the other side here. This is Catherine French on the inbound. Charging in, set up at the top. That's going to be Benowitz on the attempt, but broken up by Shaughnessy. And by the time the Polar Bears regained control, there was too much defense for anything effective to happen. Jumbos repel the second of two penalty corners.
Yeah, a bit wasteful with that opportunity there, the Polar Bears.
Ball is still very deep into Jumbo territory. Not out of the woods just yet. Still bouncing around near the top of the oval. That's Benowitz regaining control. Slap shot, bounces around. And a Tufts foot will give the ball back to the Polar Bears at the top of the dotted oval. Still very dangerous position for the Jumbos. Benowitz wasting no time, finds a shot, takes it. That's going to be slapped away by Thomas. Sent back in by Bryan. And that's Stevens trying to make something happen, but Lewis charges in and gets the ball out of there. Broken up by Stevens again. Bryan. Pass into the center, broken up by Lewis once again. Lewis showing her prowess on both sides of the ball. Arguably the most versatile of Tufts players. Inserts herself into almost every defensive effort and found herself with an unassisted goal earlier this game.
Lewis has had a good game. She's helped keep the ball for Tufts when they've had possession. And as you said, providing on both the offensive and defensive ends.
Travers checks back in for Rogers Helian. Fresh legs again. Jumbo's coach, Tina Matera, not wasting anything, keeping her starters out for as long as possible in this NESCAC matchup. Thomas, out to Sanders. Sanders to Salamone. Travers can't quite handle that. That'll trickle out of bounds for L. Bryan to take in. Bryan will take it in herself. Pass to Stevens. Stevens bounds to, that's Bashaw. Bashaw moving to the oval. 3v1 advantage, though, for the Tufts defense. Keeps things away from the Tufts goal.
And this half has sort of panned out like the first half. Tufts started really well with a lot of the ball possession, early goal. But then...
That's going to be broken up by number 13, Finnerty. Nice chance here for the Polar Bears. Finnerty by herself. And whiffs on the couple of those shots there. Really great effort from Cara Finnerty to make something look like it was happening. A breakaway on the pass there just wasn't quite good enough as Jumbo defense clamped down once again.
Would have been a wonderful solo goal there by Finnerty.
Score remains 3-0 in favor of the Jumbos. Ball trickles out back to Polar Bear territory. Baumgartner's there. Back to Mann. Rachel Mann back into Tufts territory. Stevens is there. Takes it away from Sanders. And that's Stevens again. Glass with Stevens working on the near wing now. Thomas, who's really also shown a lot of defensive skill this game too, will inbound for the Jumbos. Thomas to Sanders. That's going to be Finnerty again. Looking for a play. And I believe I'm going to call that a stick violation, something that was not quite a foot as the minutes ticked down past 18. 17:45 left to play. Polar Bears have another good chance for a goal here. They're third of the game. They really do need to execute and convert here if they're going to have any chance of exacting some sweet divisional revenge on their rivals.
Is it third time the charm, as they say? The first one, they nearly scored. Second one, they didn't do much with it. Can they get it here?
Elbrine on the inbound. Inbound to Prior. Benowitz fakes. Back to Prior. Or Fior, excuse me. Fior. Too much time once again for the Polar Bears. But that was a Tufts foot. Lucky break for the Polar Bears as they get their fourth penalty corner of the game. Jumbos really can't keep doing this, allowing opportunities for the Polar Bears to get back in it. We said it earlier, difference of 3 is incredibly different from a 0 of 2. It's the kind of momentum exists in soccer, hockey, field hockey, lacrosse, where 2 quick goals happens. Rarely do 3 quick goals happen. So Jumbos really want to keep this game well in hand. They're going to have to defend well once again. Same as before. This time Benowitz out to Glass. Elevation. Nothing doing again, though, and that's Polinsky. I'm going to say Polinsky and Sanders there.
It was another goal line clearance there by a Tufts defender.
Getting official word, actually, that was a pure save from Izzy Del Prior, flashing her defensive chops. And you can say, I'm not even going to say arguably, you can say very easily that this defensive core, both the pure defensive players like Thomas, Del Prior, and Sanders are just the rock that this rock-solid foundation that this Jumbos team is built upon right now. So with 16:11 left to play, the first timeout's been taken of the game by the Jumbos. And, a few minutes left to play. Anything different from it's you said it earlier. It's kind of similar to what we saw in the first half, Lucas. What do you think specifically the Polar Bears need to do different in order to convert?
Well, I think they've just started. I got to get a bit more passes in their attacking half. I think they've got to take these corner opportunities. They've got to start taking these chances. For Tufts,
a bit more of a united front than from the Bowdoin Polar Bears.
Yeah, I think Tufts head coach Tina Matera, I think she'll be a little bit disappointed how the energy has sort of, or the intensity that Tufts had in the opening first couple minutes of this half has sort of gone down. And they've let the Polar Bears come back into this, and it hadn't been for a good
not quite yet. Not quite back into this yet. It's still 3-0 in favor of the Jumbos, but you're absolutely right in that the ball has been spending a lot more time in Jumbo territory than it quite frankly ought to if the score is any indication of how well the game is being played right now. So credit to both sides of the Jumbo squad for doing their jobs, keeping goose egg up for the Polar Bears and putting up some good numbers for the attacking side, but you're right in that it's the sort of middle part, the sort of intensity when things aren't quite going their way could be a tad bit better. Just keeping the opportunities away from Polinsky and away from the defensive core of the Jumbos. So look to see with 16:11 left to play, see how the Jumbos and the Polar Bears readjust. Bit of a miracle necessary for the Polar Bears to do anything for any kind of hope right now. Name of the game is going to be ball control and killing the clock for the Jumbos. Spend some time just doing things that aren't productive for either side. Polar Bears back on it, though. This is Rachel Mann. Big pass right into the center. And that was a great effort from Emma Stevens. And another Tufts foot in the penalty oval is going to give the Polar Bears their fourth Fourth or fifth? Fifth. Yes, fifth penalty corner of the game. So not quite what I think the Jumbos were looking for again, but as we've seen before, the Polar Bears really do like to take their time in it with these penalty corners, and that's just not something you can do just in field hockey in general, but especially against this Jumbo defense. L. Bryan once again on the inbound. Deep lunge. Sweep this time to the center. It's going to be knocked down by Benowitz. Slap shot. Knocked away by Del Prior. Second follow-up. That was a great charge by number 24, Bashaw. Is going to sail wide and be a...
It looked like a good save there by the Tufts goalie. Looked like
Polinsky wasn't quite there for that one. That was Del Prior again. Another Polar Bear ball is going to be knocked away by Malik, who breaks things up. Looks to send it up. Back to the Polar Bears, though. Juliana Fior dribbling around. This time up against Claire Trilling. That's going to be to Tony, who takes it away. Brings it back up to Travers, who forces the ball back into Polar Bear territory. Nice move around number 5 on the defense. That's L. Bryan back where we're used to seeing her. And that's Fallon Shaughnessy. First time we've seen her near the ball in a little bit. 14:10 left to play. Fallon Shaughnessy, another part of that defensive core we were mentioning earlier. Rock solid all the way across there. That's Baumgartner. Out to number 5, L. Bryan once again. Finnerty back into Jumbo territory. Sanders. Knocked out by number 10, Tala Glass. Sanders will take it again. Sanders elevates. Knocked down by L. Bryan, but Travers is there to take it away. Back to a Polar Bear ball. I believe it could have been a stick violation. Bryan centers to Baumgartner. Baumgartner. That's out to Juliana Fior. Fior charging up the field right into Lewis. Attempts to dribble around, but Lewis is equal to the challenge. Breaks it up, but Tufts foot. Fior out to Benowitz. Benowitz tries to elevate. Doesn't quite make it around to Tony. That's Jonna Cook in there. Juliana Fior takes the inbound. Malik putting the pressure on here. That's Benowitz with a slap shot into the center. Finds its way through a lot of Tufts defense, but nothing for the Polar Bears there as but they do manage to convert into their 6th penalty corner of the game. They now definitely outmatch the Polar Bears. I believe they're leading 6-4 in that category now. But as we've said earlier, Jumbos have proven equal to the challenge with 12:30 left to play. And if the Polar Bears want something to happen, want a miracle, it's got to start now.
I think they've got to get a quick shot off here. Can't take long.
L. Bryan in her lunge. Sweep shot. This time to Benowitz. Really nice attempt from Tala Glass there, but that kind of went straight into Lewis, who just threw her entire body out in front. Polinsky charges and makes a nice save. Really good effort from the Polar Bears this time. Much, one could say, actually quite a bit better than their previous penalty corners. Polar Bears still in control, deep in Jumbo territory. Looks like that's just a pedestrian inbound for the Polar Bears. Rachel Mann on the inbound this time. Pass back to Benowitz. Benowitz with just a huge slap shot and an unsafe violation, an unsafe hit violation. Bit of a David Beckham-like shot, just kind of firing it from as far back as possible just to see if something will stick, but nothing doing on this Tufts defense. Pass to Sanders on the near wing. Slap shot all the way up is going to find its way into L. Bryan. Travers on the pressure. Sent out by Bryan. Hamilton checking in for Hannah Malik. Sanders inbounds. Centers to Lewis. Lewis can't quite handle it, and that's going to be number 8, Jonna Cook, who picks it up for the Polar Bears.
To close out this game, I think Tufts have got to keep the ball a bit better than that.
Absolutely. Best possible just clean field hockey right now. It's 3 goals up with just about 10.5 minutes left to play. And that's a really unfortunate call from there. Rachel Hamilton had a great chance there, but just nicked it with her leg. And that is a no-no. Elbrine's pass to Bashaw is good, but it finds a polar bear foot. And Thomas will take the inbound for the Jumbos. Senior captain Thomas. Pump fake, but keeps it going to the center and the far side. That's Del Prior out to the wing. Jonna Cook in traffic with Juliana Fior. That's going to be Alexa Chavette who sends it up to Gigi Tutoni. Out of bounds again on a polar bear foot.
Taking some pressure off the defense, getting into the attacking half here.
9:44 left to play in the game. Slap shot from Del Prior, no good. But Claire Trilling is there to try to make something happen. Not quite enough, though. Kelsey Baumgartner takes it again. Out to Benowitz. Benowitz, pass to Fior. Fior is good. Moving up, but too much pressure here there on the 2v1 the hard way. That's to Tony and Trilling. A little bit more energy going into these last 10 minutes as the Polar Bears put some more desperate energy into their attack. Jumbos know what's going on, though. They've been here before and know what they need to do to keep these NESCAC opponents down. That's Del Prior, slap shot. Intercepted by number 11, Rachel Mann. That's back up to Bashaw. Bashaw charging into Jumbo territory. That'll be too high on the elevation, I'm going to say. Lead back to Lewis. Not very many Polar Bear substitutions as far as I can tell, whereas the Jumbos, as we've been mentioning all game, have been very liberal with who's in and when. Travers on a 2v1 the hard way. She dribbles. Loses it this time to number 10, Tala Glass, but she loses it right back to Sanders. Sanders' pass up the wing is going to find its way all the way up to Rachel Hamilton, but that's going to be knocked away by Rachel Mann. Jumbo ball on the inbound, though. Sanders will move up to take it in with Travers. That's a pass into Salamone, but that's going to be knocked away by Baumgartner. Baumgartner, this time to Stevens. Stevens outnumbered 2-1. That'll be a Tufts foot, though. Polar Bear ball. Pass to Finnerty. Finnerty charging up the wing now, or through the center, excuse me. Pass around. Shaughnessy breaks that up, but hits it with her foot. Polar Bears another good chance here. Still a bit of a fluid defense. Unfortunate little bit of a collision there. Everyone looks okay, though. That was Trilling and number 14. No, excuse me, not 14. 24, Bashaw.
Tufts had a chance there on the break. The Polar Bears looked stretched as they were sending numbers forward, and unlucky that the play got stopped there.
Definitely a misleading record when it comes to how the season has gone for the Polar Bears. They've shown some really great stuff all throughout this game, but just haven't quite been able to convert against this rock-solid Jumbo's defense. And a 5-4 record looks to be going towards an even 5-5 for the season. So we'll still see them for NESCAC tournament play starting this weekend, but they will not be quite up there with the Jumbos and the Panthers at the top of the pack. So 6.5 minutes left to play. Polar Bears have retaken possession deep in their territory. So we see one of the few Polar Bear substitutions standing by. That's Sarah Jane Weil, who will be checking in for number 7, Emma Stevens.
Going back to your earlier point, I think the Polar Bears have shown some great stuff in keeping the ball, but just at times that final pass or that final shot just hasn't gone their way. And Tufts has been more efficient with taking their chances. And that's what this game has come down to.
Weil, a midfielder, probably to bring in a little bit of a more versatile defensive approach to this Polar Bear team. Looks as though that was called as a Polar Bear foot. Back to Sanders. Sanders to Lewis. Lewis attempts to pass through the center. Doesn't really go anywhere, though, and Baumgartner retakes possession. Out to Fiora on the far wing, who knocks it down and starts moving up. Pressure against Shaughnessy. Not quite enough to beat her there. She breaks up the run. Shaughnessy back to Del Prior. Del Prior's pass is caught by the Polar Bears. That's number 8, Jonna Cook, keeping things honest. Finnerty and Cook are all the way up right now. Juliana Fior, a little bit confusing there with Fior and Del Prior, but that's actually Finnerty. Benowitz. Elizabeth Benowitz on the inbound. Del Prior loses it there. Not quite something you want to do in the penalty oval. That's kicked away by Polinsky, though.
Yeah, a rare mistake there by the Tufts defense, but then the goalie coming through, clearing the ball away. Polinsky.
4:46 left to play. We're under 5 minutes left, and time has just about run out for the Polar Bears, unless there's some kind of catastrophic collapse on the Tufts defense, which I think we're all pretty well aware it's probably not going to quite happen, especially not on a home field like this. So Jumbo's just looking to wind down the clock a little bit. Del Prior switches the field out to Salamone. Salamone to Sanders. Sanders with a big shot. Doesn't go anywhere. Back to Salamone. Or excuse me, that's Thomas this time. Thomas. That's number 5. Brine back in there. Lewis. Lewis to Travers. Travers loses it, but keeps the pressure on. That's going to be broken up by Sanders. Sanders, really nice defensive effort here. Rebounded off of the leg of number 10, Tala Glass. Sanders on the inbound. Elevation will be found by Baumgartner. That's Hamilton and Travers on the pressure. Too much for L. Brine to handle, as Sanders will retake the inbound again. Sanders back to Thomas. Thomas considers her options, but chooses to send it back. Del Prior up to Shaughnessy. Shaughnessy fighting with number 6, Juliana Fior. Or excuse me, that was 8, Jonna Cook. 3:13 left to play. Waning minutes of this game. Jumbos have played, Polar Bears have played really nicely, but the Jumbos have proven superior just in those few moments. It's all about efficiency this game. Travers takes control, loses it immediately. Weiss making her presence known for the few minutes that she's on. This is Brine. Hamilton on the pressure now. Baumgartner takes it back. Baumgartner back to Brine. Brine. Travers tries to break that up, but that's Weiss who dribbles around Sanders. Thomas takes it. Wastes some time. A little bit of some mind games being played on number 16, Weiss, who thought that it was out, but was in fact still in and playable for Thomas. So,
not really sure what Sanders was trying to do there.
Jumbos retake control. That's Gigi Tutoni on the pass up. Hamilton's there for pressure. Just about 2 minutes left to play in this game. Benowitz out on the wing. Polar Bears playing all the way down to the last, which is a good sign for them. A lot of good hustle and skill here for the Polar Bears, but Jumbos are ranked 6th in the country right now. We mentioned earlier looking to punch their ticket back to the NCAA tournament, so they want to show off their stuff. Del Prior certainly does right there, breaking up the really nice run from Jonna Cook. Fior, her pass is going to be into the oval, but no good. Picked up by Lewis, who sends it right back out to the wing. It's going to hit the foot of Gigi Tutoni. Pressure from Benowitz, no good. Knocked down by Del Prior, who dribbles back out to the wing. Looking for help. Nothing doing right now.
And a
Polar Bear foot. A really nicely forced error from Izzy Del Prior gives the balls back to the Jumbos.
Well, even in the last, 90 seconds or so, Tufts with great concentration in the defense, getting those interceptions, not allowing the Polar Bears to get much joy in the attacking half.
And we are under a minute to play here at Ungen Field. Good effort from, looks like Tutoni. Falls down, but that'll hand the ball back to Tufts. 48 seconds left to play. And they will, Jumbos will just pass this around the backfield to keep things played out. So back to Del Prior. Del Prior out to Shaughnessy on the wing. Shaughnessy up to Hamilton. Or excuse me, to Tony. A little bit of traffic there.
I think
20 seconds left to play here at Ungen Field. Shaughnessy to Lewis. Lewis back to Del Prior. Del Prior switches the field out to Thomas. Nothing left for the Polar Bears to do. 5 seconds. Ball trickles out, and that is how this game will end. 3-0 in favor of the Jumbos here. Number 6 Jumbos, or excuse me, number 2 in the NESCAC Jumbos will take out the number 8 Bowdoin Polar Bears. But with that, even with that loss, I believe we'll still see the Polar Bears in for field hockey, the field hockey NESCAC tournament starting this Saturday. So thanks so much for joining us. I'm Andrew McMillan.
I'm Lucas Pyle.
And we'll see you next time. Take care. Okay. Wait, Alec, before you do anything, you're supposed to put these in the rolls box.
Yeah, but it was coming through on YouTube.
But this is why we can't hear ourselves, is I think what the problem is. Because we keep putting these in here. Yeah, see, now I can hear ourselves. Guys. Oh, Lord.